Okay, I'm going to be talking about the Orville New Horizons episode 2, so if you haven't seen it, this will contain spoilers. Now, yeah, maybe I was a little bit harsh on this show last week after the dark opener. It was a little bit more than I was expecting, but I'm glad to say that this episode is back in line with more the sort of general feel of the Orville. And after a week of thinking about it, yeah, I understand that this show is now trying to do its own thing, and I get that. I think it's trying to shake the Star Trek comparison, because when the Orville started, there was only one Trek show on. Now there's 5, so it's got to sort of carve out its own niche and its own universe, and I'm all here for it. And the second episode to me feels like a new start. I sort of think this maybe should have been the first one, but last week's one was sort of tying off the story details from season 2 about the Kalon, so I doubt we're going to see too much more of them this season. And I like that we did get some humour from the start. All the Claire and Kelly chat stuff and the Gordon wanting a pool table in the break room was brilliant, and that was all missing from the first episode. There was almost no humour in that whatsoever. And the show does seem to be building to something bigger. There's a new piece with the Krills that means they're finally getting to cross Krill space and to go beyond where they've been, and it does all feel like it's building up to something. So now that they're making peace with their enemies, who's going to be the new big bad, I hear you ask? And this episode maybe sort of sets it up. I'll get to that in a moment. So with the peace negotiated and the Admiral on board that negotiated it off to the wild frontiers, it's new and exciting to look forward to. And there is a real sense that these guys are going somewhere that they haven't been to face the unknown, and that is exactly what they encounter. But the second that they fly off into the big black unknown, they encounter an alien space station that transforms the Admiral on board into the Fly. All pretty solid. There was some good jump scares here from the crew. The only thing I would say is with this sort of much larger budget in these longer episodes, it does feel like they're just filling quite a lot of it with shots of the ship or shots that are going on outside, and they could have used that time to tell more story with the characters. The Orville in the first 2 seasons to me felt like maybe sometimes it was trying to pack in too much. In this episode it sort of feels like it's stretching the stories out. Outside of a few characters, mostly Claire in this episode, we still don't get a lot from characters like Bortus or Gordon. They're mostly sidelined here. And while this is very fun, and let's say it does feel more like the first and second seasons of the Orville, it does seem to be setting up that we're going to get to see new things, as well as cool new monsters of the week, and it appears that they're just going to focus on the sort of one character for the A-plot, which I get, that's the way that Star Trek does it, but it's a little bit too similar to what Strange New Worlds is doing at the moment. And if you focus an entire plot on one character and the character isn't necessarily that compelling or likeable, I think that can weigh an episode down. And while I do like Claire as a character, and I love the actress that plays her going back to 24 and Star Trek and whatever else you want to name, it wasn't the most compelling storyline to find out that she was married 25 years ago and her ex-husband shows up and that's it. I think this episode was more designed to set these aliens up as a sort of recurring creature villain. There's a great mystery on how they're sort of mutating people into themselves to sort of build up their own numbers for the species. And again, it's not something that's new, it's not a brand new idea in sci-fi, but the way it was done and the way it was executed was pretty solid. But one thing this episode lets us know is that we are going to be seeing new things, and the show is called New Horizons, so of course we are. Again, I think it's trying to distance itself from Star Trek, and I think the 3 or 2.5 year break has certainly helped towards that. The humour still isn't there as much as it was in the first couple of seasons, and I get and understand why that is. The show is trying to be taken more seriously, and if you're going to sort of build your own universe, getting rid of the comedy to do that is a trade-off that I'm willing to make. Whilst I certainly don't think this is the best episode of the Orville ever made, at an hour and 10 minutes it did feel like it dragged a little bit. I hope in the future episodes that are this long that they do give us a little bit more with the rest of the characters in the ship and what they're up to. And I hope we're going to get to see a lot more interesting aliens and alien threats out there as well. Although I sort of bash the amount of ship shots that there is in this, the CGI in this show is particularly solid, especially when you compare it to Obi-Wan, which was out this week as well. Seth MacFarlane also seems to be taking a back seat in these first 2 episodes. Mercer isn't in it as much as you would expect a captain to be in it. But in saying that, I'm looking forward to the rest of the seasons and I want to know what you think of this episode. So as always, you can let me know in the comments below, or you can follow me on Twitter at The Geeks Reviews. If you've made it this far, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. My name's Al, thanks for watching.